And let's now update you on our breaking news story here on IT International. And all of our channels' bank accounts have been blocked in the UK without any explanation. We're crossing now to Anastasia Turkina, who is in London for us, who can bring us more. Anastasia, over to you now.
Well, Marina, this is obviously a developing piece of information for RT because this is something that came quite unexpectedly. What we can tell you is that just very recently, earlier today, our offices here in London received a letter from a bank that RT has been a customer of here in the UK for over 10 years. And this bank proceeds to inform RT here in the UK that its bank accounts will, in fact, just be shut down in November and then December, and the bank proposes that RT find alternative means of banking. Now, curiously, it does go on to say that any reasons will not be explained, and this will not be a discussion, but the decision is final. Specifically, the letter says, quote, "We have recently undertaken a review of your banking arrangements with us and reached the conclusion that we will no longer provide these facilities." Of course, now lots of questions because this came without any kind of warning or explanation. This is sort of considered to be normal when it comes to banking in the UK, but certainly raises lots of questions about the wider implications for the channel functioning here in the UK. What we do know is the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova has already come out and said that London has left all its freedom of speech obligations in the European Union. What we can tell you is that while this story develops and we continue to find out more, of course, the bigger question is whether or not this is just this one bank or if this is something that is going to be reflected in wider banking issues for RT in the UK moving forward. We do, of course, know that RT's lawyers are trying to find out commentary, explanations and consequences of this particular step taken by this bank that RT has been a customer of for over 10 years. And clearly, this is something that's going to be developing and more information will be coming in throughout the day.
At this point, there are more questions than answers here. And of course, we are all waiting for some explanation. Anastasia, thanks so much for bringing us this update live from London. Well, this is not the first time RT and its activities have come under the spotlight in the UK. And 2 years ago, a billboard advert was banned in London because of its, quote, political undertones. Our London correspondent, Polly Boyko, covered that story for us back then. Let's take a look.
London's advertising posters have just got a whole lot more controversial. There are now over 500 of these across the capital with the words redacted emblazoned across the middle. Now, the advertising that was originally meant to go here was for RT television, and it featured Western leaders, and it posed the question about what happens when there's a lack of plurality in international media coverage. But it looks like not many people here wanted that question answered because major outdoor advertising platforms here in the UK refused to put the RT ad up. They cited political undertones as the reason why.
I guess they got banned because the political figures on them, but I don't think it's saying anything controversial. It's just it's giving an opinion that's out there that people talk about anyway. So I wouldn't say it's offensive.
It's very strange for me why they've banned the freedom in this country, and it is not good for European country and England.
Well, in an official press release, RT's editor-in-chief, Margarita Simonyan, has said that the original ad was supposed to provoke viewers into asking themselves about what happens when there's a lack of alternative opinion in media coverage. But she said it's disappointing that some people don't even want that question to be asked. So now, instead of provoking questions, these ads are provoking intrigue. You can see them writing that this is what happens when there's no second opinion, with the redacted sign in the middle. And they've even played up on the ban, saying that for the ad we can't show you, you have to download the RT app. Reporting from London, I'm Polly Boyko.
And for more on this, I'm joined by Marcus Papadopoulos, publisher, editor of Politics First. Marcus, thanks so much for joining us. So very unexpected development there, but you know, there's been no word on why the accounts have been blocked, more importantly, and the decision is not subject to a revision. So should we expect some official explanation in this case? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is a very disconcerting affair and potentially quite a depressing day for freedom of speech in Britain. And I think it is unacceptable for RT's bank in Britain to simply say to a customer who has been banking with them for 10 years that the decision to block their accounts is final and that there will be no discussion of the matter. That is unacceptable. If my bank sent me a letter saying that my bank accounts have been frozen, I would expect a reason to be stipulated to me as to why my bank accounts have been frozen. So that is something that RT has every right to expect from its bank. And I sincerely hope, and I have to emphasise these are very, very early times regarding this matter, but I sincerely hope there are no political motives for this, because we know that the British government is not happy with RT in Britain. Why is the British government not happy with RT broadcasting in Britain? Because RT has a lot of viewers in Britain. Many British people now tune in to RT to receive information on major topics around the world, including in Britain. And many British people believe that the alternative account that RT puts forward, that RT covers, is more truthful than what they are hearing from, for example, Sky News in Britain. So I sincerely hope that there are no political motives at play with what is a very disturbing case.
Well, certainly, as you said, RT poses some serious competition there for other news networks. But just going back to what happened today, and as you were giving us this comparison, comparing the situation with your organization whose bank account have been blocked with, say, a situation as a person, as a client of the bank, you would demand some explanation or at least some notice. In this particular case, there was no explanation and no notice. Plus, it also said that this decision is final and is not subject to revision. Quite a categoric tone there, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And as I said, it is completely unacceptable for a British bank to behave like that. In fact, it's totally unacceptable for any bank in the world to behave like that to its customer. What is a bank if it doesn't have customers? It is nothing. So that is why pressure must be put on RT's bank in Britain to explain how they came to the decision to block RT's accounts in Britain, and they have to say that clearly and they have to put that in writing. And if they don't do that, well, then unfortunately people will start talking about whether there are political motives. And I think also as well, later on down the line, we should hear a response from the British government, perhaps the Foreign Office regarding this, or perhaps the Treasury regarding this, because RT has every right to broadcast in Britain. And I'm talking in theory now. If no bank in Britain will allow RT to be a customer, then that could spell the end of RT broadcasting in Britain, which would be a catastrophic event for freedom of speech in Britain in general. But also, as I said just now, many people in Britain tune in to RT for their news, for their information, for an alternative account of what is happening in the world. And if we do not hear anything from the British government later on down the road, then once again, this is completely unacceptable. And as I said, it is it will be a very, very depressing time for freedom of speech in Britain, and it should not be tolerated.
Certainly, Marcus, as you said, freedom of speech gets to the forefront of this debate here. And the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that post-Brexit London seems to have left its freedom of speech obligations within the EU. What do you make of this statement?
Well, we've had a lot of talk since June of Britain forging a new pathway for itself in the world, not having to comply with the Human Rights Act set by Europe. And unfortunately, if there are political motives at play with this breaking news today about RT's bank account being shut down in Britain, that could be yet another piece of evidence to show that the British government is intent that once the UK is withdrawn from the EU, that it will do as it pleases in the world and that it won't have any constraints. Now, a UK in the world which doesn't have any constraints when it comes to media is not a healthy UK. It is not a healthy UK for UK citizens. And people in Britain have every right to expect, to demand alternative media sources, and RT fits that bill. And if people in Britain are denied that, then once again that is yet another demonstration of how it is simply a facade when Britain projects itself to the world as a beacon of freedom, as a beacon of human rights, as a beacon of media freedom, because as we know, that is quite an untenable argument for the British government to maintain. And if RT is jeopardised in any way from broadcasting in Britain, UK citizens will suffer, and the reputation of the UK government at home and abroad will once again receive another bashing.
Well, certainly, as you said, Marcus, it is very important nowadays for the viewers, for all of us, to receive diverse information from different sources. And RT, as you were saying earlier, was enjoying high numbers in popularity. But, 2 years ago, RT banners were taken down across London. So just going back to that and looking back on what happened then, I mean, does it all seem that there was a campaign against RT at some point and it's been going on for some time? What do you make of it? I mean, how do you feel being a Londoner, and what can you tell us on this regard?
I would say there is a quiet yet concerted campaign to disrupt RT from broadcasting in Britain. And why is there a quiet, concerted campaign? Well, because British media and Western media in general understand that in 2016 they do not have the field to themselves any longer. This is not the 1990s when CNN and Fox News and Sky News and BBC News could say what they want about what was happening, for example, in the former Yugoslavia, what was happening leading up to Iraq. And RT has been pivotal in coming onto the global stage and in providing people, not just in Britain, but as I said, across the world, with a credible and well corroborated alternative to what is happening in, for example, Syria, in Ukraine, in Libya, in the former Yugoslavia. And many people in Britain now understand, because of RT's coverage of Syria, that the people, the terrorists who the British government and the American government are supporting are the same people, ideologically speaking, who carried out the London bombings and who want to replicate London-style bombings up and down Britain. So British people are aware that British taxpayers' money is being spent on Islamist terrorists in Syria, and it is being spent by their own government. And how do they know that? They know that largely through the work and endeavour and determination of RT. And if RT is not able to broadcast in Britain anymore, then British people will suffer, and they will not know any longer about what their government is doing when it comes to Syria, when it comes to Libya, and when that comes to Ukraine. And that is a very dangerous affair, because we do not want to go back to the 1990s in Britain when there was no alternative media. We want to have it out as it is today with RT broadcasting, and broadcasting, as I said, credible and well corroborated accounts about what is happening across the globe.
Okay, well, Marcus, certainly, as you were saying earlier, and as some of our analysts and people who comment on RT were saying that the phenomenon of RT is that it has broken the Western monopoly on information and provided its viewers with an alternative source. So indeed, it's a very unexpected turn of events today in London. But, just looking at what could happen and the implications of this decision, I know you're not a lawyer, but perhaps maybe you are aware of some legal procedures. Is it possible legally then to overturn this decision, or is there any chance, any room for it at all? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I don't think I caught that question.
Well, I was just saying that, just going back to how this decision to block the accounts was worded, as we heard from our correspondent earlier, it said that this decision is final and is not subject for revision. What does it mean? I mean, does it mean that no legal action could be taken to overturn this decision? Could you shed some light?
Well, my first response would be, what has RT done that is wrong? What banking regulations has RT breached? If someone in Britain wakes up one morning and receives a letter from their bank saying that their account is blocked and that it is not open to discussion and that the decision is final, well, they would ask, as any right-minded human being in the world would, what have I done that is wrong? And RT is entitled to an answer. And if RT does not receive an answer, then that says much about the bank that RT has been banking with for over 10 years. And I can only emphasize again that if there is no response forthcoming from RT's bank in Britain, then we do have to seriously consider political motives in this matter.
All right, Marcus, I very much appreciate your insight into this. Marcus Papadopoulos, publisher and editor of Politics First, talking to us and giving us his thoughts on the blocking of bank accounts of RT in the UK.